Two skis, no oxygen, the ultimate flex on the world's highest stage. Or just another act in the world's biggest circus? Hans Kammerlander called it a carnival. And after hearing what Kammerlander said, he might be right. This season, Everest gave us two massive headline moments. First, Andrzej Bargiel, no oxygen, no margin for error. He climbed to the summit and then skied all the way back down to base camp on the south side of the mountain. And then came Jim Morrison, taking one of the most intimidating features on the north side, the Hornbein Couloir, skiing it from top to bottom, a 9,000-foot descent, a route that has seen only a handful of ascents, and it's something many thought simply couldn't be done. Two athletes, two massive feats, and two very different interpretations of what it means to ski Mount Everest. Before we dive in, this was inspired by an article in Explorer's Web written by Angela Benavides. It was called Pioneer Everest Skier Criticizes Bargiel's Carnival Ski Descent. Hans Kammerlander says he is not impressed with Bargiel's recent Everest ski descent. In an interview with Hans Kammerlander in the Austrian paper Der Standard, he criticized what he considers a Red Bull show, referring to the expedition sponsor. When Bargiel first released footage from his incredible no-oxygen ascent and descent of Everest on the south side, on the traditional South Col route first pioneered by Hillary and Norgay in 1953, it looked absolutely spectacular and is. It's an amazing accomplishment. Cinematic, drone-guided, but then Kammerlander spoke out. He said that all the fanfare ruins mountaineering. And essentially, it wasn't the same mountain then that it is now. Everest has been dialed in, and these two amazing ski descents on the north and the south were created and made possible by massive teams with the best Sherpa in the world helping fix ropes from the bottom all the way to the top. In the case of Morrison on the north side, oxygen was used right to the top and all the way back down. And Bargiel, no oxygen, but fixed ropes and an equally strong team. Kammerlander went on to say, it's a show, it dilutes everything. And the thing is, Red Bull didn't just document Bargiel's descent, they directed it. 30 minutes now recently released of stunning drone shots, edited like a car commercial. Absolutely spectacular footage dominated by ultra-wide GoPro distortion, a POV angle recorded from the top of Bargiel's helmet. Certainly up close and personal is the sense of solitude and danger and stillness, but it does reek of performance, almost too perfect. And when one learns that the final section in the treacherous Khumbu icefall was guided by a drone flown by Bargiel's brother, it does take a little bit away from that raw sense of adventure and exploration. Then came the other side of the mountain, produced and filmed by an Oscar-winning filmmaker, Jimmy Chin, also a North Face athlete, this being their third attempt on getting Morrison to the top of the mountain and down the Hornbein Couloir. Millions of dollars have been expended, and as I'm going to get to in a little while, Angela Benavides says, there are so many mountaineering films out there now that National Geographic, after such an incredible investment of time and money, very likely is expecting nothing short of an Oscar-winning performance and film. It's interesting to compare Kammerlander's tiny team and moral code versus these modern juggernauts with massive support, fixed lines from the bottom to the top, huge Sherpa teams of the best Sherpa on Mount Everest, drones, sponsorships, and Hans Kammerlander would like to insert himself firmly into that discussion. Just who is Hans Kammerlander, who created quite a stir after Bargiel's historic ski descent? Well, Hans Kammerlander is one of the most successful extreme mountaineers of our time. He's climbed 12 of the 14 8,000-meter peaks, most of those with Reinhold Messner in 1984. Together with Messner, they became the first climbers to traverse two 8,000-meter peaks, Gasherbrum's 1 and 2. And in 1996, Kammerlander made history by skiing down Mount Everest. Now, it wasn't a complete ski descent. Because of dry conditions, he climbed down from the summit and put his skis on some 300 meters below the summit. And as he said in the interview, if he had known there was going to be such a fuss about it, he would have kept his skis on, which would have been absolutely ridiculous by traversing or rappelling down pure rock with skis on. Point well taken. Kammerlander climbed without oxygen or Sherpa support, and at the time, it was a speed record from base camp to the summit without oxygen. He got there in just 17 hours. He said he was done with the entire thing in less than 24 hours. Kammerlander has also skied other 8,000-meter peaks and is literally probably only one of a very small handful of people on the planet who is in a position to criticize a ski descent such as Andrzej Bargiel's. Angela Benavides will appear later in this video to share her thoughts on this incredible story about the Carnival on Mount Everest. And she starts the article by going toward Hans Kammerlander, who is not impressed with Andrzej Bargiel's recent Everest ski descent. The South Tyrolean himself, a high-altitude ski pioneer, described the Pole's recent descent as part of a show that is destroying alpinism, especially compared with his own performance on the same mountain back in 1996. In the end, the topic raises the everlasting debate between style and results. Kammerlander was annoyed by this first ever complete descent claim. What really annoys him is Bargiel's claim of the first complete no-oxygen ski descent of the south side of Everest compared to Kammerlander's own feat almost 3 decades ago. There's no doubt Jim Morrison's ski descent is absolutely incredible, and a beautiful and poignant story of him releasing some of the ashes of his partner Hillary Nelson from the summit. I detail that ski descent in a previous video. I'll put the link to that video in the description here, as well as a video about Bargiel's descent a few weeks previously on the south side. And the marketing, fascinating, right? The most audacious ski descent ever. Audacious, absolutely. Beautiful, yes. But the greatest ever? Who's to determine what's the greatest or most audacious ski descent? Does it really matter? What is the psychology behind trying to prop a human being up above a previous accomplishment? It just feeds into this carnival that it makes all of us, myself included, look a little bit like a pawn at the mercy of how many clicks, how famous, how high, how far, how fast can we go? When will it end? Probably never. Or perhaps when there's been such an oversaturation of mountaineering films out there that people will frankly just get sick and tired of it and stop watching altogether.
Which would you rather? Ski a super gnar sketch line that literally no one has ever done, or get up and down Everest, no oxygen?
I was listening to a conversation recently on the Blister podcast YouTube channel between Cody Townsend and Jonathan Ellsworth, and they nailed it. They said the marketing contrast was hilarious. They said, quote, Red Bull's footage was just released, no hype, greatest ever. But Nat Geo, it was like an American marketing blitz, the most audacious ski descent ever on repeat, as if adventure had become a brand campaign.
The contrast between how these projects were marketed was so hilarious. It was so American. Everything that Nat Geo was putting out was the greatest ski descent ever. The greatest ski descent ever. It was just over and over. The greatest ski descent ever. I just kind of laughed at it as just being like, that was like, it just felt like such an American marketing thing. And again, Jim is not the one claiming that. Jimmy is not. I guarantee if you asked Jim himself, he wouldn't be like, yes, this was the greatest ski descent ever. Like we as skiers know that. It's just the marketing and trying to pump out a movie that they're trying to do this and, you know, put it on Good Morning America and have a title that comes out with it. So that was kind of funny to me.
It is wild.
They went on to comment about the interviews on Good Morning America with Jimmy Chin and Jim Morrison, where even I think the rock god, Jim Morrison, the Lizard King himself, would have had an almost impossible time looking cool. It is a television program that is cringeworthy in its own right, and you put in these two rugged, cool ski mountaineers, and they do look like fish out of water. I will put a link to that podcast interview between those two on the Blister podcast. It's well worth a watch and highly motivating between two extremely incredible athletes in their own right, ski mountaineers. Angela Benavides and I had a short discussion to discuss this incredible article that she wrote. I wanted to ask Angela to take a moment to share her thoughts on it. Here's a clip from my interview with Angela Benavides.
Kammerlander came out and he called it a carnival. And you wrote an article about that. And I thought you said some really pertinent things. And I was wondering if you could explain that a little bit.
Yeah, well, in fact, this article was just like a short story. It was supposed to be a short story because it was not me who spoke to Hans Kammerlander. I thought it was interesting, not because what Hans said was scandalous or just a vindication of the old times of alpinism. I just thought it was such a loyal reflection of the debates taking place right now in the world of alpinism, but just said by one of the main of the main characters in that story. Kammerlander was not very happy. I think he tried to make clear that he had nothing against Andrzej Bargiel personal. He mainly put the blame on the entire show around it, the Red Bull language, how the story was told, and then everything that was around that expedition, right? Everything that Red Bull didn't say. So we have Andrzej Bargiel skiing down Everest, which is very cool. I don't know if you've seen the video. It's super cool. And the images are really nice. And you can see it so clearly. It's beautiful. So that's so to say, congratulations to Bartek Bargiel and the other Bartek. There was like a whole camera crew. I do understand Hans Kammerlander as well. Yeah, he was bitter because of this first tag around the whole story, saying that Andrzej Bargiel had done the first ever no oxygen complete descent of Everest. And that is true. I mean, Red Bull is right on that. That's how it was, because Andrzej Bargiel went there in the fall season after the monsoon. Everest was very loaded with snow. There was an avalanche during that expedition. That's another thing that Red Bull was pretty quiet about it. The fact is real. Yeah, it was the first no oxygen complete ski descent of Everest. What's the difference with Kammerlander feat years ago? His descent was not complete because he went in spring. The mountain was much drier. It was just that there was no snow, but that's the fact. And so the fact is that his descent was not complete. It was an amazing descent after an amazing climb, because he climbed Everest mainly on his own, extremely fast. The feat was amazing, the whole climb. In Bargiel's case, the story was completely different, right? It's another time and a completely different setup, right? What you had was a very big sponsor funding everything, huge logistics, between 12 and 40 Nepalese climbers around him, fixing the Khumbu icefall, big show, a carnival, according to Kammerlander, right? Lots of supports, consultants in base camp, the drones leading the way. Yeah, it was completely different. And Kammerlander didn't like this, how it was. His course was right. I also have to say that Bargiel he insisted when I talked to him that he wanted to mention Kammerlander, because he considers Kammerlander the pioneer and the real inspiration, as well as Davo Karničar from Slovenia.
Do you kind of feel that these incredible athletes, Jim Morrison on the north side, only, just a short difference in time, and then Bargiel, they're almost like, I hate to say it, but they're almost like pieces of meat for these PR, these public relations, social media campaigns through National Geographic, the North Face, and Red Bull. And they're lauded and they get fame and fortune, hopefully, but they're kind of like just being used in a way. And I feel that, and I look at them and I think that they're in a tricky predicament, because there are a lot of alpinists and skiers who would not do that because of the carnivalesque sideshow feeling of it all.
I have been, it's right now, it's a hot piece of debate among the mountaineering community, both people who like mountaineering and both the professionals too. But, the expedition to the North Face of Everest, it was a climbing expedition, but in the end, the reason why they were there, it was because there was a documentary in the making. It was a film. Morrison, it was a character in the film, an actor, a stunt, being used. Well, as long as everything is transparent, I guess those things happen when both parts reach an agreement. I'm sure the ideal situation would be to climb Everest with your friends without oxygen and then ski down the Hornbein couloir. Well, the last guy who tried is still there. The possibilities of reaching the summit and then skiing the Hornbein couloir are so scarce that either you are a great alpinist and a very rich person, or you cannot do that. So the question would be, okay, do you want to try to ski down the Hornbein couloir? Because I can provide the setting, I can provide the logistics, I can help you get to the summit, right? And then the skiing is up to you. It was done not in an alpinistic way. Oh, of course. Yeah, definitely not. And when you ask climbers, alpinists, who go to a very remote place somewhere in the Karakoram, in the Himalaya, India, somewhere in southern Kyrgyzstan, the last thing they usually want is a camera crew around, a filming crew. But sometimes those filming crews allow the climber to fulfill a very big dream. I do see many, probably too many mountain films right now. Everybody has like a documentary in the making. So I don't know whether it's like a documentary bubble right now or just a trend that is going to grow, or whether there is going to be a return. That is what the companies are asking for. So, okay, so we're going to film this and it's going to be great, but we're spending a lot of money. They will need to check whether they have a return and whether they have a profit out of it. And we'll see what the future holds for those expeditions. I don't know. I'm a witness. I'm a journalist. I ask, of course, those who are there for their opinion, how they feel about it.
Some years ago in Pangboche, Nepal, with my friend Mike Hamill, who runs Climbing the Seven Summits Expedition Outfitter. It's truly one of the great Everest guides of our time. We sat for quite some time with the late Lama Geshe, who would bless many expeditions and many climbers who would come seeking his blessing before the expedition. Certainly held in the highest esteem by the Sherpa who literally bowed down at his feet for a blessing. And what Lama Geshe said to us through a translator is he said, you would gain far more credit and merit by taking that money that you spent on these climbs and giving it to a school or some charitable organization. He said he just doesn't understand this fascination with getting to the summit of Everest. Now, I understand he was speaking directly to me and Mike at that time, but we represented to him the hundreds of people who had come before us and the hundreds of people who will continue to come every year after us. So that one sentence, it dismantled everything. Because what are we really doing up there? Are we climbing toward enlightenment or climbing toward ego gratification? I think somehow, some way, with the overt commercialization on the south side of Nepal, that those lines have been seriously blurred, and these massively promoted ski descents with multi-million-dollar budgets are certainly in the fray as a completely blurred line between the search for enlightenment or the search for ego gratification. Kammerlander says that the two ski descents, his in 1996 and Bargiel's this year in 2025, and perhaps you could compare that with Jim Morrison's on the north face on the Hornbein Couloir, that they're not comparable. What do you think? Are they comparable, or is it just two different mountains, as Angela Benavides has expressed? I hope if you've enjoyed this video that you'll take a moment to subscribe and also to check out my members section where there's a ton of exclusive content. You can also find a link to my merchandise site where I sell glassware and clothing and hats. And YouTube seems to think you're going to enjoy this video right here. I hope you'll stick around and watch that. In the meantime, do somebody a kind favor. Don't ask for anything in return. Make the world a better place, one tiny step at a time. Peace be with you.